You're listening to the Natalie Parker Studio Podcast, episode number 10. In today's episode, we're talking about what to do when you have an art show or launch a new collection and nothing sells. Ouch, it's painful, right? I've been there, done that, and I'm going to help you today. So let's dive on in. Welcome to the Natalie Parker Studio Podcast, the podcast for women artists who are ready to pursue their creative dreams so that they can thrive both in life and in business. I'm your host, Natalie Parker, artist and mentor to women creatives around the globe. In this podcast, I'll share with you the strategies, principles, and mindset that you need to build a purposeful and fulfilling creative business. If you're ready to be inspired, encouraged, and equipped to build the art business of your dreams, then you're absolutely in the right place. Let's dive into today's episode. Hey there, artist, and welcome to today's episode. Most of us have been here at some point in our art journey where we've prepared months for an art show or a new collection launch only to find that nothing sells. Now, this can be incredibly upsetting and can even derail you from your art career altogether. I know this all too well. All right, over my art career, I've had at least 25 in-person shows and as many online new collection releases. Now, not all of them have gone to plan. In fact, most have not met my expectations. I've experienced all the feels and yes, even considered giving up on my art career altogether. Like in 2018. So in 2018, that was my final year that I was going to be working as a secondary school art teacher. So I had been building my art business up for 10 years prior to that. I was leaving. We were moving from Wellington to Melbourne at the end of the year, where I was going to go full-time in my art career. Now, in 2018, I had a really big show at the New Zealand Art Show in Wellington. I had been exhibiting at the NZ Art Show since 2003, 2004. I think I put a small work in there when I graduated from my Bachelor of Fine Arts degree. Now, with the art show, they had three different levels of entry. So you had a general exhibitor who basically put in 2 or 3 pieces. The curators would go pick those pieces and just put them around wherever. Okay, that was cool. So I did that for a few years. Then when I started to get serious about what I was doing, I applied for the solo panel artist. So a solo panel artist, they have their own wall and you can put about 10 to 15 pieces on. Again, you're not there during the show. They have special curators, they hang your work for you and they rotate them throughout the show. Then there was the highest level. So the highest level was a single artist wall. Now that is where you could exhibit as many pieces as you wanted. You could have 2 or 3 panels, so about 3 meters wide for a particular space. And you were there for the duration of the show to connect with the clients. You got to go to the opening night. It was like the big wigs. Now, I had tried twice over that 10-year period to get into that top level of the show, and I was actually denied twice. First time, I did not take it very well. All right, I had all the feels, I had all the tears, all that stuff come out. The second time, I didn't get in as well, and I didn't really take it as hard because I had been rejected before, but I knew that there were some things that I needed to tweak into my work. Anyhow, once I finally got to that top level, and I was glad that I got to that so many years later, because my art was so much better, and I knew that I was ready to really, 1, financially invest in that space, but 2, feel confident standing there by my art and promoting my art. Okay, so here I am. Final year of art school, or final year, of teaching. I've told everyone about this show. I've been a regular at the New Zealand Art Show. I've helped some of my fellow colleagues who worked with the school that I was in. I've helped some of them get into the art show. and I'm working on this portfolio of work. So I'm doing about 25 pieces that I had for the show. So the show was in June of the year. I started preparing and painting for that show in January. So this was a 6-month period of time that I had invested. So during that time, up until the show, there's a few weeks before the show, or even a month, where you're not allowed to exhibit in any other shows the work that you're going to show in that show. So I'm not having any sales coming in during that time because I'm preparing everything that I can for this one big show, which is going to be, the big thing that is going to launch my art career and, really sort of solidify me. Yay, I'm leaving teaching. I'm going to be a full-time artist. This is amazing. I'm going to make lots of money, be a success. Yay, cool. Anyway, so I'm working on it. I'm painting, I'm still working full time. I'm still managing my husband's gym. I'm going home at work. I'm painting. I'm going down to the gym. I'm using my weekends, any spare time that I can. I'm painting at work and my lunch breaks. I'm getting everything varnished. I'm also getting people in the technology block to help me with framing all my artworks. Like, I went all out, right? I invested not only $1,500 in itself just for the space. I would have spent a couple of thousand on art supplies, framing, all those kinds of things. Not to mention 6 months worth of work. Now, the pressure was high, but so was the expectations because I had sold pieces at that show before. All right, I had big pieces that were selling for nearly $1,000 in the show. I was pretty confident going in. I thought, what? I've now got the single wall. I've made it. I'm going to be there. I'm going to connect. It's going to be amazing. As well as that, leading up to the show, I got so much positive feedback on my work. My work, I personally loved. It was bright, it was bold. One of the pieces even got selected to be part of the BioCup art series. Now, what that is a BioCups, okay, so biodegradable cups. They select few artists from Australia and New Zealand, and they take one of your artworks and they print it on the outside of the coffee cup. And then cafes and restaurants, whatever, that are part of this, that like to buy or invest in those cups because they're a little bit bigger, they use them for the coffee. And then the really cool thing about that is people will tag you on Instagram and you'll see your artwork printed on this beautiful cup. So that work even got selected. So I was like, you know what? We're on to a winner here. I've got my style. Everything is cranking. So we get set up for the show. It's a real big buzz. I've got great feedback already on my work. It's been featured on cups that are going around cafes in New Zealand and Australia. This is going to be amazing. So opening night comes. I'm all dressed up, I think I got a new dress, I think I wore a dress that I had from Vegas. All right. So I was really happy. My husband was there. It was, black tie event. Really, really cool. Then opening night, I'm standing by my work, as you do, feeling really uncomfortable. All the introverts, put your hands up. This is like, I'm really cool with painting myself, but standing here promoting myself. Okay, this is a new level. And nothing sold on that night. Whereas there were artists around me whose work was flying off the shelves. So I started to get a little bit nervous. Now, the art show, we had an opening night on a Thursday, then it ran Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and I think it was even running on Monday. So this was 4 days. So first night, didn't sell anything, a little bit confused, but you know what? Still had a little bit of hope. I'm like, you know what? There's still 4 days to go. Day 1 comes. Now I'm there all day from 10 till 4. Same thing happened. No sales. Lots of positive comments. I'm there. There are the other artists who are around me. They're supporting me. They're making sales around me. They're encouraging me. Don't worry, Nat. It's going to be okay. And I'm like, okay, kind of feel like a little bit of a nerd, feeling a little bit vulnerable here. Why is my work not selling? I feel a little bit embarrassed. But it's only day 1. It's going to be okay. Day 2 comes. Confidence is a little bit lower, but I'm like, you know what? I'm going to work on my sales skills. I'm going to engage with people. It's going to be a great day. Saturdays, it's usually, when more people come because, Friday people are working. Saturdays, weekends, people are off. Cool. We're going to have more people. It's going to be all good. Comes to Saturday. the same thing happens again. Now, I'm getting really embarrassed. I'm also getting a little bit embarrassed that the other artists around me feel like they need to support me and stroke my ego. No sales in D2. That day, when I walked home, I was walking home, I was catching the bus, we were living in the city, I broke down. Like, I was crying on my way walking home. I hope no one saw me. I was on the bus. I got home, it was a Saturday night, and I had never been so shooken up. Like, I had that crazy shake when you are physically shaking, you can't control it. I remember I had to go into the shower so I could have my little breakdown because my stepson was staying with us and I didn't want him to see me really upset and to be worried. So I went to the shower, had my meltdown, and then told my husband what had happened. And bless him, he's like, you know what, Nat, I'll go in for you tomorrow. You just take some time off. And so on this Sunday, I couldn't even go in. I couldn't even stand by my artwork because I was embarrassed, and also freaking out. I'm like, I don't understand. This work is great. Like, so many people have given me great feedback. Why is it not selling? People are laughing at me. People are feeling sorry for me. So my husband went in, bright-eyed, bushy-tailed, very, gracious, covered me, said, oh, that's cool. She's a little bit tired. She needs a rest. So he went in, did the morning shift, and then I came back on the Sunday and did the afternoon shift again, went home completely distraught. Then the same thing, in fact, the person who ran the show came over to me and said, hey Nat, maybe we should move some of your work over here, or we should space some of your work out, because they knew that I wasn't selling work. And it's to their benefit that I sell because I'm paying money to be there, and they want to support me. So they moved some stuff around and stuff, which was cool. I felt really grateful for that, but again, nothing. So by Monday, when we finished early, I was ready to run out that door. So I packed that stuff up super duper fast, and then I simply, my husband, he really helped me. We just got out of there and I went home and just basically lay there completely defeated and asking myself what the heck happened. I mean, 6 months worth of work, thousands of dollars of investment, great feedback. This was something that I was leaving to be a full-time artist, and I had finally got to the top pillar of the New Zealand art show, the best art show in New Zealand, and I sold nothing. So to say that my confidence was crushed is an understatement. Now, I also had to go back to work and tell all my colleagues what had happened, that I hadn't sold anything. I had to tell the guy who had helped me, he was so invested and really helpful, helping me build the frames, that we didn't sell anything. It was incredibly uncomfortable. So I know what it's like. Now, when we don't sell anything, we tend to tell ourselves some nasty untruths like, I'm a failure, no one likes my work is terrible, I'm terrible, everyone else did so well except me. That was a biggie. I thought I was the only person at the show who sold nothing. I was not. I should just give up. It's impossible to sell art. I thought everyone was laughing at me again. They were not. I'm just not as good as so-and-so. Again, bollocks. And I'm not doing this anymore. I had to really think, what the heck am I going to do? So those are some pretty terrible things that we tell ourselves, right? Why do we connect our self-worth and our success as an artist to how well our show or our launch goes? Because when we do that, we fall into really dangerous territory. Rather than going, okay, I launched lots, I sold lots, that means I'm a success. What happens when we have shows or launches and we don't sell anything? Does that mean that we're less than? No, it absolutely does not. The challenge now is, what do we do when we don't sell as much as expected or we bomb? What do we do next? So here's some strategies, my top 10 strategies that I have personally used to move forward. Number 1, is I allow myself to feel all the feels. Like I told you, I haven't cried like that since that time. That was one of those ugly cries, those breakdowns, those shaking, I am falling apart, I feel like I'm having a mental breakdown type cries. We have to let ourselves experience that, experience those emotions, go through those, feel it, cry it out, because if we don't, it's going to come up in some other area of our lives, or we're going to go and, spill milk over something completely irrelevant and have a major breakdown that's completely not even connected. So feel the feels. Allow yourself to be disappointed. You don't have to be 100% positive all the time. Okay, if you're feeling sad, you're feeling sad. That's okay. The quickest way that we can kind of move forward and get through those feelings is to give ourselves permission to feel. So I did, and I was obviously well supported as well by my husband, who was there to support me and encourage me. So take the time after that show to feel the feels. It could take 2 weeks, it could take 3 weeks, 2 weeks, 3 weeks, 2 or 3 days. It could take a week. Okay, get through it. The second thing I want you to do is to reflect on the show a week later. Now, don't do it the day after when you're still feeling all the emotions and we're all over the place. Take an honest look at the show 1 week later. Now, I want you to think of your launches, your art shows, as a science experiment. Now, I know that kind of sounds a bit weird because it's like, we're creatives. Why would we do science? Like, personally, science was not my subject. But I want you to analyze what worked well. Now, the reason for that is because I want you to disassociate you, who you are, your value from the success of your show. So evaluate and reflect on that show. What worked well? Was it great for me to finally put together a huge body of work of 25 pieces that were all in the same style? That was incredibly important. Was it great that I learned how to frame? Yes, it was. Was it great that I was able to connect with other people and have 10,000 people go through that show and see my work? Yes, it was. Was it great for me to see other artists? Absolutely. Now, what didn't work so well? Obviously, I didn't sell. Why didn't I sell? Was my work too bright? Was it not presented well enough? Were my prices not relevant for the clients? Did I not space my work out enough? Was the position of where my display was not in a good foot traffic area? Or was the clientele coming through the show, were they buying more muted work, more landscapes, more traditional art, whereas mine was very floral, very bright? Who was the target market coming through? Because this is going to help you identify what's working well and what you need to improve on. Because sometimes we think it's just all about us, we failed, but we don't actually see the dynamics of what was happening. So step 2, reflect on what went well, reflect on the show, what went well, what didn't work well. And then number 3 is to decide what changes you can make next time to improve the result. So I moved to Melbourne, but had I gone back and done that show again, I would have separated my work and given my work more room to breathe. So what I mean by that was when I put it up, everything was very tight. There was only a slight gap between the work, so it was quite hard to see it all. And because my work was so bright, it was kind of like a really in your face. So I would separate my work more. I would try some different color palettes. I'd try some more toned down, some more pieces that are a little bit lighter as well. And I could vary the sizes and even play around with the pricing as well. Another thing that I could do is I could do more promotion myself. I could get my clientele coming through to the show and bring in their friends who are like by like coming as well. Number 4 is to try a different strategy. Now, sometimes we are very habitual and get into the habit of doing the same thing over and over because we know that we're comfortable with that, even if it's not producing the results. So I have launched a lot of collections online and I've tried them a lot of different ways. So I've done collections where I have only launched them to my email list. So they've only the ones being access to it. I've also done it instead where my email list gets first dibs, so they get it for the first day and then it goes open to the public the following day. I've done new collections simply on social media releases. So, posting is fresh, like hot off the press. I've done a work in my studio, I've photographed it, I've posted it on my Instagram, and it's sold straight away. Those are some things I've done. Another thing that I've done is a different strategy, is I've run sales, and I've experimented with these in different ways. So I've done reduced price for works on paper, and I've kind of looked at that on my Instagram and discovered that the smaller costs work better for my clientele. Then I've done a 12 days of Christmas promotion where I had a new work coming out every day. So I had, usually if I was doing something like that, it would just be to my email list. So I did it to my email list, and then I opened it to the public, so it's on social media as well. And then I even opened it up by doing Facebook advertising and driving more traffic. So I built my audience, and that increased my sales as well. So think of different strategies. If you're just doing email marketing and it's not working, try doing social media. If you're just doing social media and you don't have a list, you 100% need an email list, go and do that. But mix and match, try different things, try different time frames as well. It might simply be that when you are opening up your exhibition or your online collection, so say for instance you launch it on a Friday night at 6 or 7 p.m, that's probably not going to get many hits because most people aren't on, especially if you have a mum club or your mum are your collectors, they're not likely to be checking their emails around that time, okay? They've kind of clocked off. However, if you have a sale on a Sunday night, they put the kids to bed, Sundays work really well for me, or even during the day, say Tuesdays at 10 a.m. Try different strategies, try different times. Number 5 is to try a different show or different location. So, while the New Zealand Art Show had worked for me in the past, when I'd sold the odd piece here and there when I was only, exhibiting a few pieces, when I went to have that big body of work, the show had changed a lot over the years. When it first started, it was called the Affordable Art Fair, and it was exactly that. It was affordable. It had a lot of mum and dad art collectors, families coming in to buy something affordable for their home. Over the years, it's raised in its prestige. It's got a lot of new collectors, a lot of interest, and it became the best art show in New Zealand, which is great. But as a result, the clientele shifted and changed. So rather than looking, just the average person coming to look for a beautiful piece for their home that they're going to have for years that they love, and match their furniture, do up their home, the stuff that I like to sell to my clients, it became more the high-end collectors who were looking to find the next big Monet. All right, this is an exaggeration. Monet is my favorite artist, but the next big artist. Now, leading up to the show, the New Zealand Art Show would do really good promotion, and they would take the flavors of the month and they would promote them extensively. They even had a pre-show to the show of select artists. Now, those who were financially backing the show and those who were art collectors would go to these events. So when they would come and open the doors to the New Zealand Art Show on the opening night, they basically did a beeline for those artists who they had been told were the next best thing and they were buying from them. So what that meant was that even if your work was amazing, they were just looking for the name rather than the work, okay? They were going from an art collection, not for looking for a beautiful work for their home that they genuinely, wanted to invest in. So the clientele had shifted. So therefore, what I was targeting hadn't. My clientele hadn't shifted. The New Zealand Art Show clientele had shifted, but I didn't realize that until that show. So while I felt incredibly embarrassed and like a failure that I hadn't sold those works, it actually had nothing to do with me. It was simply because my art wasn't in front of my ideal client. So find a different show. Find a show that is your ideal client. Just because that show is wonderful and beautiful and everyone goes there does not mean that it is the right show for you. Now, I personally have had a lot more success doing my own solo shows. I've done a couple of solo shows in Wellington. And within the years that I was working in that New Zealand art show, same style of work, had far more success because I had control of who the clients were coming in. So try a different show or try a different location. So my show was in the city. It might be that your work sells better rural or in the country. It might be that you want to swap cities or even try an international show. There are some different shows in different locations. And number 6 is to sell direct to your clients. And I love this. Hello, no commission. So, off the back of a really bad show experience, I went on to sell a lot of that work, like 20 out of the 25 pieces. 5 of them, I think they're still in New Zealand. Now, here's why. There's a couple of factors that influence this. 1, I already had my own email list to sell to. None of that work was offered to them before the show. They didn't all go to the show. They loved me. They loved the work. They hadn't even given them the opportunity to buy them. Another thing that happened was I was moving. So I was moving from New Zealand to Melbourne. So those people who had taken an interest in my art over the years, they knew that, you know what, if I'm going to invest and finally get one of Nat's works, I need to do so before she moves overseas or I'm not going to have a chance or I'm going to have to spend, a hefty amount shipping. So I sold most of them. As I went up to even getting towards the end of before we were moving, I even had to sell and got rid of the rest of them. So what that told me, I learned a lot from that. 1, I learned that I was incredibly in control of my art career. I did not need a show to promote me. Great benefits of it, absolutely. But I had every ability that I had within me to build connections with my own clients, which I had been doing for years, right? I had started my Facebook page in 2009. I left in 2018. So nearly 10 years I was building this collection. I had repeat collectors. 2 is I knew that my work had value in front of the right clients. So just because my work did not sell in the New Zealand Art Show, that had nothing to do with the quality of my work. It just meant that it wasn't in front of the right person. So if you have a show or you launch and it does not work, sell direct to your clients. They love you. You've already invested in those connections. And no commission. So I ended up making more money selling them privately after the show. Number 7 is to review where your sales have come from and lean into that. So often, and I get my students in my art business to do this, even when they start setting up their business, I'm like, make sure you have a system that's tracking where those sales are coming from. Now, the reason for that is sometimes we think we're selling from a lot of things. Like I used to think that I was selling a lot of on social media, and then I went back and had a look at my stats and realized that most of my sales were actually coming from my email list. So when I put a work on social media and it didn't sell straight away, I tended to feel very like, oh my gosh, I'm deflated. But then I'd go and do an email promotion and I would more likely get a sale. And I was like, oh, that's right, because that's my clientele. They're seeing more of my work because you get more email hits than you do social media. But 2, because I had built those relationships. So when you know where your sales are coming from, you can lean more into that and do that. You don't just want to go and do a whole lot of different events, shows, launches, and kind of just throw a needle in a haystack, just kind of throwing darts everywhere and hoping something will hit. Look at your art business like a science experiment. Pull out that data, focus on what's working well, and lean into those sales avenues. Number 8 is to host your own show. And I did just mention this, but this is what I love. Okay, there's a couple of reasons for this. You get to curate the theme. You get to decide how everything is going to be hung. It also elevates you as an artist. Having a solo show is a really big thing, and often many artists will wait till someone offers them a show, or waits to, like a gallery says, okay, I'm going to put on a solo show for you. Now, I'm not about that. I'm about taking control of my own art career and forging my own path, which is exactly what I want for you. So I hosted my own show. I've done it twice in Wellington through the Thistle Hall Art Gallery. I applied there. They basically gave me the venue. I had to do everything. I had to plan what work I was going to put in there. I had to make the work. I had to photograph. I had to promote it. I put on a opening night, which was really cool, with music, security, all those kinds of things. I was there during the duration of the show, so I got to connect with all the people coming out. I was even doing some live painting during the show as well, filming not only both live in person, but also I was doing my Instagrams and my Facebooks at the same time as well. And then I got to do the after person sales and everything. So it was really, really beneficial. And so I encourage you, host your own show. Don't wait for someone to give you the opportunity. Another thing I've done is I've done an in-home show. If you're comfortable with having people come through your home, set up your own artwork in your home. And you know what the cool thing about that is, that especially if you're selling work for people to hang in their home, like not specifically for art collection, they can see their art in context, which is really great. So put on your own show in your home. Number 9 is to hold on to the work. Now, when the work doesn't sell, sometimes we're like, it's because the work is terrible. I just have to get rid of it. I can't stand it. Sometimes I even say to people, sometimes I just want to stab the canvas, rip it up, throw it away, be done. You don't want those memories. I get that. But I have sold so many pieces 18 months, even up to 2 years later. The work that you're creating now, just because it hasn't sold yet, does not mean that it won't sell. It simply needs the right person to see it. Okay, you need to get the right client in front of that work. All the work that you're creating now is cash on hand, all right? It's an asset that you can later sell, turn into cash for what you need. And I've done this, multiple times. I've been like, you know what? I found this old work. I need some money now. I need some cash. What can I do? I'm going to go and run a promotion on this work, or I'm going to go sell it. Now, the great thing about this too is that over the years, your art business will build. So your followers at one point, like we all start at 0. I had 0, now I have 3,000. Same on my Facebook. I had, for many years, 50 to 100 people on my email list. Now there's 1,000 on there. Everything is going to grow. So less people may have seen your work now. Over the next 2 years, as your business grows, as your audience grows, you're going to get more people to see your work. Not everyone has seen all of your artwork. We think everyone knows everything that we have available, but they don't. So hold on to it. Pull it out at a later time when you find the right client, and turn it into cash when you need to. And number 10, to keep you moving forward when the sales aren't coming in, when the show crashes and the collection crashes, is to keep going. Now, my greatest key that I love to give you and all my artists is that consistency is key. I have had many shows. The New Zealand Art Show was probably the most traumatic, but that's not the only show that I haven't sold work in. I have launched multiple times online, sometimes with no, sometimes with low sales. But you know what? I've kept going. I've gone through this process. I've felt the feels. I've reflected on what worked and what didn't work. I've made the changes that I needed to. I've tried and adapted to different strategies. I've tried different shows. I've done different locations. I've sold direct to my clients. I've looked at where my sales are coming in from, and I've leaned into that. I took control of my career and I hosted my own show. I've held on to my work and I've resold it years later. And I have kept going because there is power in consistency. So keep going, keep showing up. That is the biggest bit of advice that I can give for you, because it is incredibly easy to get derailed. But the artists that make it, there's nothing different about them. There's nothing special. They just simply keep going. So keep going. Know that you're doing well. know that you're growing, and know that those sales will come. You may just need to make some changes. So if you're looking for support to help you grow art sales, you're absolutely going to want to check out my program, Art Business A to Z. Now, I purposely put this program together to help artists like you figure out the business stuff, all right? Because it's like one thing to learn how to improve our art, find our style, all that. It's another thing to know how to set up an art business, how to do email marketing, how to do a website, social media, all those kinds of things. So everything that I have learned from has been put into this program. So I'm going to teach you how to set up, how to launch, and how to build your own business. And I will pop a link in the show notes below if you want to go and check that out. Well, that's a wrap for today's episode. I hope you found this episode beneficial. If you have, I would love if you would do me a favor and take a screenshot of it, share it on IG, and tag me in at Natalie Parker Studio. I'd love to connect with you over there. Okay, coming up next week on the show, we're talking about why you need more than talent to have a profitable art business. So I look forward to talking to you then. Until then, keep pursuing your creative dream. Do you dream of having your own art business? Is 2022 going to be the year that you step out, go after your desires, and start to build the art biz you've been dreaming about for years? If you are, but you also have no idea how or where to start, then you're going to love this. On Jan the 20th, I'm kicking off a free training series for artists called the Art Biz Startup Series. In this 3-part training, you'll get clear about what you want for your business, you'll learn multiple ways to make money, and you'll learn my simple 3-step sales system that you can use over and over again to finally get those art sales coming in. So if you're ready to finally do what you love, to be fulfilled in your days, and to have the extra income for you and your family, then you're going to want to register for this free training today. Click the link to register in the show notes below. I can't wait to help you turn your art biz dream into a reality this year.